Hello, Be Awesome listeners. You are listening to episode 15 of Be Awesome Podcast, and I am in a Starbucks in Madison, Wisconsin today, and with a great guest. First lesson I'll tell you guys is the answer is always no until you ask, and that can end up in a Starbucks in Madison. New England guy getting ready for the big Sunday night football. I'm with a great inspiration by the name of David Cooks. He is the author of a book, Getting Undressed, From Paralysis to Purpose. And we'll get into that. I met David. I've met him for the first time in person today. I met him on LinkedIn via connecting with him about 3 years ago. I want to say it was Steve Hibbard from Concordia University as a mutual contact. Had shared a comment, a motivational thing, and I'm like, wow, this guy is really inspirational. Followed him for a couple of years and liked a lot of his stuff and commented on a number of things. And then this summer, he made the announcement of his book, and the title of it made me want to look into it. And I said, I wonder what happened to him, because I never looked to realize anything other than the headshot that was on LinkedIn. I never thought a basketball coach and everything that he's done, he would have been paralyzed since an early point in time in his life. And so this week I read his book. I put a post out on LinkedIn, and then yesterday I sent a message and said, hey man, I'd love to do a podcast. He said, let's make it happen. And he happens to live in Milwaukee. I'm living in Madison, so here we are. Sorry for the background noise if it's too much, but hope you guys get some good takes out of this. But I want to welcome David to the podcast. I want to talk about your book, but let's hear a little bit about you. Tell us your story. How did you get here to Starbucks today?
Well, first of all, thank you. It's good to be on your podcast. You're doing great work, and just to be a part of this is really outstanding. It's good to be here. I drove up today, obviously, to meet you, and I'll talk a little bit about my background. I am 54 years old now, but really what is most important is not what happened to me at 15 years old, where I had a spinal aneurysm that impacted my spinal cord and left me a wheelchair user the last 39 years. But more importantly is what has happened to my life since then, and all the different steps that I've been able to take, and some of the successes I've had. And that's really probably the idea behind the book, is to show people it's not necessarily what happens to you, it's what you do with what happens to you that counts.
Right. And what do you take with it? What do you do with it following that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, spinal aneurysm. I actually never heard of that until reading your book.
You know, and you're one of millions because it's so rare. Even doctors that I see, the first time they see me and that kind of stuff, they're like, what was that again? And they have to go back and research it. It's very rare. You know, normally you'll have an aneurysm. You hear about them in people's brains, heart, stomach, that type of stuff. But to have one on your spinal cord, to literally have a blood vessel erupt on your spinal cord out of the blue is very, very rare.
And we're going to get into your book, but your upbringing. You grew up in Milwaukee. Basketball was your life. I mean, playing basketball.
Yeah, I'm a city kid. Grew up in Milwaukee. Loved the playground. You know, that was back when you would go to the playground to play.
Yeah.
And we would play as much as possible. I loved the game. I had one goal, and that was just to play high school basketball. I wasn't thinking about playing college or the NBA or anything like that. My other goal was to be a businessman. Yeah. And so the basketball piece, I loved it, played it all the time. I actually got to be pretty decent. You know, the longer I tell the story, the better I was, because there's no YouTube or anything from back in the day. But I just loved it, and I never let it go. You know, I had to change what I did once I stopped walking. But up until that time, I was a classic teenage boy that loved to play ball and did it nonstop.
Yeah. Well, that's great. And then there was a period of time in the book that, you had the rehab and everything else, but it really didn't indicate to me that basketball ever got out of your mind even for a second. It stayed with you at some level or some capacity, not necessarily to play, although you did do some playing in wheelchair basketball, but it seemed like it never left.
Yeah, that desire and that love for the game never left. You know, I didn't know what I was going to do with that. I never knew that I'd be a coach eventually, but I just wanted to stay connected because it was such a fun game, and it was such a pivotal part of my life as a youngster. And I was so young when all of this happened. That was probably the one thing I gravitated toward that I probably didn't really realize that I was actually doing. And so attending games and being around the sport really helped me a lot. I think that although my ability to play the game was hampered, my passion for the game was not. And so I had to figure out a way to now, how do I fulfill this passion or follow this passion of this game? And so like you mentioned, I was able to do some wheelchair basketball, which kind of got me going. And then after that, I start coaching, and the rest is kind of history, as they say.
I got to tell you, there were so many moments in your book when I was reading it that I was like, man, David, he must be a hell of a salesman, because there was just, when I opened this with the answer's always no until you ask, there were countless examples of how no was not really an option with you, and you weren't afraid to ask anybody. One of the good ones was going to get your gig with Coach K at Duke University. You just kept going, and you talked to anybody that would listen, and you gave your article because you didn't have your resume in your bag and all that stuff. I mean, that was just unbelievable persistence.
Yeah, one of the things I think I've learned was early on was how to leverage endings into beginnings. And so as long as there's time on the clock, that's my motto. If there's time on the clock, then I can still play this game some way, somehow. And so none of these no's that I have experienced were final. They were just kind of like, okay, let me see if there's another way to do this. Let's see how we can get this done. So I didn't know any better as a youngster to go visit the CEO at the bank I worked for, because no one told me I couldn't do it. And so I did a lot of things because I guess I thought I should. And there wasn't a rule that said I couldn't. And so once I did and started to do these things, opportunities began to happen because I asked. And because a little bit of persistence goes a long way. As long as you have some gas in the tank and you can bring something to the table, I think it does help with those situations.
Yeah, I got to tell you, when I read that paragraph where Coach K said, I read about you, I got the article, I want to talk to you, do you get some time? I mean, that feeling right there was like a huge W, and I felt it. Like, I could just imagine how you must have felt, and just going into that and then saying, I'm going to do whatever. And truly, that big piece is realizing that you will do whatever you need to do to get to wherever it is you need to go with integrity and everything else intact. But when I say that, I mean, you were filling water bottles and you were running around doing things, catching balls and doing all sorts of stuff, right? I mean, most people would say, well, that's beneath me, or that's whatever. You took that as a great opportunity.
Sometimes we miss opportunities looking for a different opportunity. And I just believe you take advantage of everything that you're given, because you don't know where it's going to take you. You talk about being juiced up when he said, I want to talk to you. I was like, you want to talk to me? Well, let's get this on. Let's go. And so, but it wasn't my first time with small beginnings. My very first job, I filed checks and for a bank and counted coins. And that led to other things. So I had some experience understanding how not to despise small beginnings, but how to make sure that I was doing the best I could with whatever I could. Because I began to understand that my life is telling a story, and my life is giving a message. And how I do what I do is important. And that was a lot of what happened. I didn't have a network, but I had my life. I didn't have a bunch of people I knew, but I had my integrity. And to me, that started to open up doors for me as I got older. Like you said, I was 28 years old when Coach K asked me if I would fill up water bottles and wash clothes. For many, that would have been offensive. But I was at school to get my MBA anyway, so I'm going to get my degree out, whether I do this or not. But who else would get a chance to do that in that situation? And so why not?
And that, in your time there, I think they were national champions once.
Yes, they were. The 91-92 season was the second of a back-to-back championship that had Christian Laettner and Grant Hill and Bobby Hurley and those guys a part of the program. And what a great time to be there. Sometimes, not sometimes, probably all the timing is essential to success. And so I just happened to be at the right time, the right place, all those sorts of things to really be a part of something special.
Yeah, no, that's great, and I can tell you that a whole bunch of people probably would say in that season they would have gone from being offended to saying, "Man, I would fill up Gatorade bottles to be a part of that winning team and to be able to watch and experience that." And I mean, you started out, you were just going to the practices, right?
That was it. I was just going, and I would sit in the corner, stay out of the way, kind of watch and observe. Didn't bother anybody, and eventually that led to a number of other things. So that small beginning wasn't so small after all.
Yeah. Well, sorry, I'm going to go into this book because I literally earmarked about 50 pages, and when I read a book, if I earmark a couple, I'm happy. Like, you know, if I get one good nugget of knowledge out of a book, then it's worth me reading, and that could be a huge opportunity financially or personally, mentally, whatever. But I can tell you, I get so many great lines out of this and mindsets that I'd love to just kind of go into this and maybe ask a few questions or give some of my thoughts on it. And so,
absolutely, let's do it.
The first one was you're in with your doctors after they do the surgery and after you're finding out that you're going to be paralyzed most likely for the rest of your life, and they're telling you all the things that you can't do, right? And you stopped them and shocked them by saying, "Hey guys, let's get away from the things we can't do. Let's talk about the things we can do." I mean, was that mindset always innate in you? Was that something, or was that just like were you just tired of listening to it at that time? Like, how did that happen?
It's probably a little bit of both. You know, I think I was still clinging on to whatever hope I had to get back in that gym.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't interested in what I couldn't do. Because why? What benefit is that to me? And so I wanted to know what it was I could do so I could focus on that. It was difficult enough to have that tragic of a transition in your life for them to continue to pound the negativity at you. And I don't think that was what they meant to do, but I think as doctors sometimes they just want you to understand, here's our analysis and here we go. Well, I appreciate that. But as long as there's time on the clock, it's a chance for me to play the game. And so my focus always was, my parents always taught us, just do the best you can with what you have. And so I had something left. You know, I still can use my arms, I still can get around. So tell me the things that I can do, and let me build on those.
Yeah, that's a great example for everyone in any situation. It could be something big or small, but I mean, it could be I have a sales background. It could be someone coming and given a quota, and I go, well, I can't do that. I can't, but what can I do? Why don't I focus on what I can do opposed to putting all the obstacles in the way of the things that I can't get to, and see what that looks like. And it could be any number of things, but all too often we focus on things that we can't do, we can't go to, we can't be a part of, whatever, and we don't look at the things that, well, yeah, I can do this. I'm amazed that we could make this happen, right? We could do it, right? If we had a mindset of, well, I'm in Milwaukee and I'm in Madison, I'm going to the Dells in the opposite direction. We can't possibly. We put it together, right? We put something together. Absolutely. And you drove all the way over here and did all this stuff. So that's a great way. I mean, 15 years old to have that mindset, and to essentially, from the best that I can gather from LinkedIn and our limited communication, reading this book, it seems like that's carried with you your whole life.
It's interesting. I didn't realize it until I wrote the book, and I started to look back and I found articles and stuff that had been written about me when I was 15 years old. And many of the things that I was saying now, I was saying then. So I credit my parents an awful lot for instilling those kind of values in us, and also for my parents not accepting anything other than excellence. Mm-hmm. They didn't care about the wheelchair. That wasn't even an issue for them. I needed to still do the things I was supposed to do and be the kind of kid I was supposed to be. And I think that really helped me a lot because there was no feeling sorry for me or anything like that. It was like, look, man, if you're going to live here, you need to make sure you still do what you need to do.
And that was kind of your first example of the Undressed, was getting home after rehab and while you got to move your room from upstairs to downstairs, you still had a whole lot of adjustment to do, and you had help. But I mean, that was a lot of work, and it was kind of like you need to put in the work to figure it out.
Yeah, the whole concept of the title for the book, because people ask me this all the time, it came from an experience I had in rehab. And I remember the day when they taught you how to get dressed, because you have to relearn everything. I mean, people don't quite understand that, but you're learning everything over. And the day I learned how to get dressed I was juiced up. I was really hyped, because that was independence. That was a move forward. And then that night, I'm in the room by myself, and there's an emergency, and there's no one to help me get undressed. So, what do? I got to figure this out, because if I want to go home and I want to be truly independent, then this is the next step in that process. Yep. So I got undressed that night. It took me a little while, and we were able to figure it out. And that continued when I got home, because as you mentioned, I mean, we had a city home with a bungalow with steps everywhere and small doors and all that. And we just had to figure out how to make it work. Yeah. And that's what we did.
Well, that was, later in the book, and I'm not going to give up too much because I really think everyone should read this. This is a solid read, and it's an easy read, 198 pages or 202 pages, including the epilogue, something like that. It's an easy read. But you were the first wheelchair student in your school when you went back to Marquette, right?
Yes.
So you were the first wheelchair student they ever had there. So there was a lot of adjustment there that had to be made and especially someplace that you were used to or comfortable with, not being in a wheelchair. A lot of relearning growth that I understand.
I tell people, my parents in the school, they didn't have time to adjust to this either. None of us were given the luxury of time when this happened. We had to hit it and move really quick. And the high school, this was back in 1979, 1980. ADA stuff was just starting to come out. And so this is an old historic building. And so I found out where the tunnels were and how to get around. But I think it was valuable lessons just on not complaining and just to push through, literally push through and figure out, again, you're going to be in school here. How do you make this the best experience that you can? Just make it the best experience. They didn't say that there wouldn't be negative things that would happen, but how do you make it the best experience that you can make it?
Absolutely. You say in the book, obstacles only change the direction we must take to reach our goals. They don't change our goals. That is a great line there. And you know what? I don't think I've ever looked at it that way or thought about it, but I think it's going to be one of my lines in my office. Because I used the term yesterday with someone that said that they made a post on LinkedIn. They said that they had some stumbling blocks, and I said, well, make your stumbling blocks your stepping stones. But you also need to figure out, you also need to realize that when you do hit a roadblock or an obstacle, that there is a directional change that you have to take, a conscious one. Otherwise, you're just going to keep banging your head off.
Absolutely.
And not have progress.
We do it literally when we drive.
Yeah.
We do it literally when we drive. If there's construction in the road or something, we don't decide not to go where we're going. Mm-hmm. We take another route. We detour, get around, and we still get to our destination. So I think we do it subconsciously, but I think sometimes when it's a personal challenge, we look at that a little differently.
Yeah. Shifting gears a little bit, you talk a bit about your friends growing up, and I just want to touch on this because I think this is so incredibly vital and important. And this was the early '80s, and this was before Facebook and before all this stuff. And I think social media's got a place for everything, and I think that this is just to fight it is in social media in general or anything is it's not going anywhere. But what it's done, sadly, is it's built this mindset or mentality of like-minded thinkers only sitting, the people that have the same political beliefs, religious beliefs, everything. And I just thought this was a great intro to your friends, so your four friends that helped you, which we were an eclectic circle of friends with diverse backgrounds, personalities, political leanings, religious outlooks, and economic statuses. And you guys all got along and worked together, and one of them actually pushed you up for high school graduation for you to get your diploma. That's something that's just so incredible because you don't see and hear that too much today. And I think we need to get back to that.
I think we do. I was fortunate enough to have those guys in my life. and to still have them in my life today. And I'm a believer that you can get along with anybody you want to, if you want to. And these guys, and like I said, we all had differences, but we also had a common goal. They all wanted to help me. They wanted to help make my life be the best that it could be during those high school years. And each of them in their own way did certain things for me. And you're right. I mean, that's hard to do these days with how we communicate and that kind of stuff, but it's still possible.
Yeah.
You got to be intentional about that. And these guys were intentional about being in my life. I was intentional about receiving what they could give me and giving back to them. And so that to me was an early lesson on the whole conversation about diversity and getting along with people. I learned that through my own adversity. So I learned adversity. I learned diversity through adversity.
Wow.
And how to do that.
That's cool. That is really cool. I think one of the other pieces is being open-minded. Being open-minded and also being, I guess, more understanding. When someone's passionate about something, to appreciate and respect it, don't fault them for it. You can have a difference of opinion, but there's no need to go full on angry with folks because they don't have, right now it's political beliefs. I mean, politics is just crazy right now with the division of people not being friends and unfriending and doing all this stuff because someone didn't vote for Hillary, didn't vote for Trump or whoever. The most important thing is just be decent human beings. These four absolutely were.
Yes. Absolutely. They were great people.
Yeah.
They were just good people. And so, all that hating and all that division, that's unnecessary. And I think people can choose how they want to live. And I choose to give people the benefit of the doubt, give them a chance, try to appreciate where they're coming from. I don't have to necessarily agree with it, like you said, but what I need to do is respect them and hear them out. And once we hear each other out, I think things change. People just want to be heard.
Yeah.
And nowadays you don't get a chance to even say anything; they just cut you off.
Yeah. And on your friends, there was one really cool thing that I feel that a lot of younger folks specifically are challenged with failure. And I love to read about Jim and his family. They weren't afraid of failure, but more importantly, they believed in the power of possibilities. What a great way to be. What a great way to think and to share that with others, not just themselves, was something that's pretty powerful.
Yep, and that helped me begin to see what I could do. We talked about, the whole thing about doctors telling me what I couldn't do. But then I had people in my life now showing me unbelievable possibilities and that there was a lot more that I could do. And that helped me a ton.
Yeah. And you had a friend that had some alcohol and drug issues, and I think this is a really powerful way to look at things when we look at our lives and then we look at someone that's drug addicted or out doing alcohol. I thought this was really incredible how you position this, which is here I was trying to figure out how to live the rest of my life, and he was trying to figure out how not to waste the rest of his life. That had to have been, first of all, it had to have been a really challenge for you because you're looking at someone that has the rest of his life to look forward to and is destroying it. And you're trying to figure out, what do you do for the rest of your life?
Yeah, that relationship may have been one of the most beneficial for me because he was never going to leave this relationship. As we were on polar opposites in terms of our social life and that kind of stuff, but he was attracted to the fact that I had character and integrity, and I was attracted to his commitment to me. I hadn't had it because he was my guy. Yeah. And so to go through that with him and to watch him navigate through some of those things, that changed my life too. That gave me hope that even though people are struggling, you don't have to. That's not who they necessarily are. That's their struggle. And I got to know him outside of his struggle, and then I could help him with his struggle. And that was outstanding.
Yeah, and he cleaned up his act, and he's doing much better.
Towards
the end of the book, he was, you came out to visit you at school when you had the radio station and all that. That was so incredible to read because as I read it, and it was kind of hitting on the heartstrings, I couldn't wait to hear an update of some sort, because you left me in limbo for a little while. I was like, oh no, I hope something didn't happen to him. And it was great to know that you continued that friendship and relationship. You didn't give up, and he didn't give up. And now
talked to him this week.
Yeah,
and so great guy.
Good.
Great guy.
Good. I have to put this one out because as I was reading it, I remembered one of my first jobs was delivering newspapers. Just so when you were telling the story about one of the worst parts of doing the job was delivering the Sunday papers, I just immediately had this flashback of being 12 years old and having those monstrous Sunday papers to wrap the rubber band around, and I couldn't fit them in the cloth bag they give you for the front handlebars of your bicycle. So your mom or dad had to drive you around, so you had to get them up early. And I can remember one of my childhood friends, I think it was Danny Miller. He'd stay over, I think, purposely on Saturdays to do the Sunday thing because it was just funny. It was just comical, having me run around, jump out of the car, and throwing the papers around, and I hated it. I absolutely hated it. I hated everything about the paper delivery business. And my parents were like, "You're going to get up and you're going to go deliver those newspapers." And the day papers, all the other 6 days, the newspaper didn't come to your house till 4 o'clock.
Absolutely.
And then Sundays, it was there at 4 a.m. and they expected it to be on the doorsteps at 4:01.
Yes.
And it was kind of hard to do when you had 100 newspapers to deliver. You couldn't get them all at the same time.
No, you couldn't. But that's funny. We need some of those days back. I think it taught us both probably work ethic. Yeah. Because my folks were the same way. I was walking then when I did that.
Yeah.
And my brother worked with me too. So those were funny days. And like you, I did not like Sunday morning at 3 o'clock. But that didn't matter in my house.
No, it doesn't matter what time. It doesn't matter what time it is. It's something that you need to do. It's got to get done, and you got to go to it. So, very much how we grew up. You and I talked about this beforehand, but something that you were teaching your students. So you got into teaching. So, you went from 15 and having this happen to you, to rehab, to graduating high school, to getting into college, to going for your MBA, and working with Coach K, and now you're smack dab right back to your old alma mater at Marquette, and you got an opportunity to be economics teacher. Yeah, economics teacher. And so you took advantage of the opportunity. And one of the things that was great was you were talking about how your exams were no joke. You double quiz. Nobody told you couldn't do it, so you went ahead and did it, which is great. I might not have liked it too much. I love the Rubik's Cube rubric confusion, but absolutely, this is a great one. In order to teach my students that we never have as much time as we think we have, I ask them to complete more problems in less time than what they would have seen on the AP exam, and pushing that because my take on it is, we don't know what we don't know as far as what we can do and how long we can do it. They don't know, and you probably had a pretty good idea, so you were going to push them to give them a minimal amount of time with a maximum opportunity to learn and get things done. But I just thought that was really cool because people always think they got time. Oh, I got time. I'll get to it, and all that.
And that was part of my lesson to them is that don't wait. Some things you don't need to delay, and because you really don't know how much time you have. But as I said in the book, your ability to endure is always greater than your willingness to endure. So that means you can get through more than you think you can. You're not going to be willing to do it. Once you do it, once you're in it, you'll be amazed at the power of the human spirit and the human will and what you can actually deal with and come out on the other side okay. Yeah. And that was part of it. I love the classroom because there were so many life lessons that I could teach these young men as we were going through. And like you said, it probably wasn't the most exciting time for them getting those double quizzes. I even gave a quiz within an exam once because nobody said I couldn't. And but I tell you what, they learned a lot, they grew a lot, I grew a lot. Because again, it helped me get back to one of my key principles, and that's building relationships. And that's one of the things I think I'm gifted to do, and that is to connect with people and reach people. And that's why I've been, fairly successful as a coach and in the classroom and those things, because that skill just manifests. I tell people, your purpose will manifest wherever you are because of the skill set that comes with your purpose. So whether I'm on the court or in the classroom or in Starbucks, it's going to manifest because that's who I really am. Yeah. And I tell people, if you're struggling with what you're doing, you may not be in your purpose. There's probably going to be some natural giftings that you have, and you got to sharpen those. And it should be something that's enjoyable, it's fun, it's kind of easy for you to do, but it makes a difference in other people's lives.
Yeah, well, you hit a point, and I'm going to come back to the ability and the endure. But you just hit a spot that you touch on in the book, which is, if you're unhappy enough, then you need to change what you're doing, and that could be your job, your school, your whatever. And I think too many people, and I've had 2 experiences this in the last week, which was crazy to me. I've had 2 conversations this week when I asked someone how they were doing, and it ended up with, there's not many people that are really happy with their job, right? But I don't know many people that are really happy with their job, and I'm sitting here going, well, why not? Like, why aren't you happy? Are you making an actual effort to find that happiness? Or are you just sitting back on Easy Street just going, oh, it's a paycheck, or, you know what, I get paid too much? And I think it's unbelievably admirable and very unique to read through this and see the sacrifices that you made financially to find the things that you loved mentally and emotionally. And you gave up a lot. I mean, at one point you gave up 60% or 70% of your pay of a good paying job, really getting to do what you thought you wanted to do, which was be a banker, right?
Right.
And then you're back teaching and coaching and doing all this stuff at a fraction, but you had fulfillment.
I tell you what, money can't buy fulfillment and the feeling that you get from it. I try to tell people that the return I got and the return I continue to get from seeing people's lives positively impacted. I mean, I can't put a price tag on it.
Yeah.
I just can't do that. And so once you find whatever that is that you're wired to do, money no longer is a part of the equation. We all want to get paid. Let's just put that out there. Yeah. But that doesn't become a driving force behind what you do.
Well, we are at Starbucks. I mean, so we do need to get paid. They don't let us sit here for free.
That's right.
But I do get free refills because I think I'm like a gold status here, so I can stay here for a while.
That's fantastic.
Bottomless cup. But now you're happy that we met here, right?
Yes.
You got so your kids made a number of one-liners. What's cooking, boy? And I really like this one. Hard work doesn't pay off; it makes you tired.
That's one of those things where I think that there are so many things that we just accept because we hear them over and over.
Yeah.
And I heard it a lot in the basketball arena. That if you work hard, you get an opportunity. I'm like, well, no, I expect you to work hard, and then if your skill set is good enough, you'll get a chance. Mm-hmm. And so I think that was when I used to tell the guys all the time. I said, I'm not going to pay you, give you a grade in my class just because you did your homework, because that's my expectation. The expectation is to work hard, and when you get done working hard, you should be tired. Mm-hmm. That's your reward. Yeah. You should get a sense of I've accomplished something because I had to really put out to do that.
Well, my favorite one is if you roll around in dog poop, you're going to smell like dog poop. I mean, it doesn't get any more visual than that. But I mean, that just made me chuckle. I mean, there was a long list of them. But one of the things that's interesting about that is, and it's not said in the book, but kids obviously cared. So you were hard on them. You're doing quizzes inside of exams. You were making them work. You were pushing the time limits. You were making them do all this stuff. But they cared enough to take the time to build the cooking board, to put all these one-liners up, to make people laugh, and probably to make you smile too. So that had to have been awful rewarding for you.
It was, and I think the thing that the guys in the class knew and my players have known is that I really do have a genuine concern for their well-being. Mm-hmm. And I think once they realized that I wasn't just putting them through the ringer just for my own sake, then they began to want to run through the wall for me. And that was the reciprocal situation that we had there. Yep. And absolutely, I mean, it was fun for me. I mean, I like to have fun. I'm not a real starchy guy. I wasn't trained how to teach, so I just taught the way I coached. And the one-liners and stuff, they would come and I didn't know what they were doing. They would get up in the middle of the class and go put it up on the board. And I was like, what are you guys doing? And so eventually that became part of the class. And yeah, it was great because sometimes when you're in the middle of tough situations, and AP Econ was not easy for a lot of these guys, you need to learn how to laugh.
Yeah.
You need to learn how, just kind of back up a little bit and not take yourself so seriously. And I think the guys in the classroom really understood that.
Yeah. Well, I got to tell you, on the back of your book, and what you talk about is that your ability to endure is always greater than your willingness to endure. I think that's a great tagline for folks, and a realization and a mindset that people need to push themselves, and we need to push each other, because greatness doesn't happen by just doing average. Greatness doesn't happen by just showing up. Greatness doesn't happen by just getting part of the way. I mean, I shared with you the climb, and episode 13 of the post climb is hopefully this week's going to be an active podcast week. I was going to have one podcast. Right now I'm trying to splice episode 13 so that people don't think that if they're listening for the first time, if episode 13 is the first episode, I don't want to think that I'm some sobbing sap that cries in a parking lot.
Right.
So I need to have one of my great people that's helping me with this splice some stuff together, so there's some content to it.
Yeah.
But got this with you, and I actually have a third one with our CEO, Dude Solutions, for the second time, Ed Rossich, and he attempted 215 mile in the woods over 72 hours, and he got 76 miles into it in about 21 hours, and he had to, the timing, his time wasn't going to get him to finish, and he was going and having some challenges. But I mean, thinking about that, I go, 76 miles, like, your mindset has got to be laser focused on, I am going to stick to this, and that carries in everything we do, right? That carries in what you do, that carries in what I do, and we have to constantly remind ourselves that, because our mind is our worst enemy and our greatest ally, right? It's our worst enemy because it wants you to quit all the time. It doesn't want to put work in. It's like, hey, I can do all of this, but our mind is incredibly strong at getting us through anything, but can also prohibit us to get to anything.
Absolutely. I think people often ask me, did I ever have the why me questions and all that kind of stuff? And I think I did for all of about 10 seconds, because then immediately it came to my mind, why not me? And by that I meant I understood that I was going to be able to get through this okay. And how I understood that was when I was in rehab and I began to see people, my roommate was a quadriplegic. He could hardly do much on his own. And there were people there that had brain injuries and couldn't move at all, and it gave me the right perspective. At that moment, people ask me, what was the defining moment for me? It was that moment right there when I realized that I wasn't as bad off as I thought I was, and that I got this, and I'm going to make it through this. And that perspective, that changed everything, and I tell people all the time, if you got it, you can handle it, because your ability to endure always exceeds your willingness to endure, always.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can't agree with that more, and it's you can have beliefs, whatever it is, whether it's religion or whatever it is, but the belief at the end of the day, most importantly, is that you have to believe whatever it is that gives you that drive. You have to believe that you got this and that you can handle it, and that whatever is handed to you for a reason that you can tackle. And you just need to focus on it. And
I think that's the single most attribute man is given, and that's the ability to believe, because that changes everything. Yeah. Because whatever you believe dictates how you live. Right. And without the ability to believe, I don't know where we would be. Right.
Well, because that saying that and now I'm drawing a blank because we got orders flying around here. But it's that whether you think you can or you can't, you're right.
Yes.
And it's what you believe and what you allow your mind to tell you.
Absolutely.
This has been first of all, this has been one of the most interesting experiences. David brought me to what he thought was going to be the quietest Starbucks in Madison, and I think the entire University of Madison has come in here for coffee. I have made it through 38 minutes in here with my New England Patriots hat and my Tom Brady socks, with just a couple of hours to go before the game was played here. I mean, to be in Wisconsin, playing the Patriots, 5.5-point favorites, and making it through this podcast, I was unsure of. But David, closing up, first of all, thank you for taking the time. Thank you for driving down here to make my drive to the Dells a little bit easier. But how can people get a hold of you? What are you doing? Share with your book.
Okay. You can get a hold of me. I have a website. It's davidcooksspeaks.com. And on there you can order the book. And you can contact me about speaking. I've been doing keynotes and workshops and all those types of things. So that's the best way. I'm on social media, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all of those places too. And that's what I'm doing. I'm excited about the book and that it's impacting and changing lives. One of the things that happened with this book, and I didn't share this with you, I got an email from a person that read this book, and they had been struggling with cigarettes for 35 to 40 years, almost 2 packs a day. And they had tried to stop before, and after reading this book, they've been off now a month and a half. And that just blew my mind. They felt so inspired after reading the book that she felt that this was a time for her to go ahead and do this. If I don't sell another book, I don't give another speech, it's been worth it just because of that right there.
Yeah, that's and I countless stories. I would same way doing the speaking. So many instances, and it's just that one person. And when I started doing this, I had this unrealistic idea that 100% I needed to get through to 100% of the people, and I drew that down to one. Not 1%, one person. If I can help impact one person's life in a positive manner, then I've succeeded. Even if 99 of them don't like me and they know everything, that one makes a difference. Like you essentially extended someone's life by them realizing that they had to make a change and talking to you, reading your book. That's fantastic. So I'm going to put your website on my page. I'm going to share this on my social media. As always, guys, thanks for listening. Thanks for making it with me here for these 15 episodes. David, thank you for your time. You can always find me at josh@beawesome.com. That's BEAUSM.com. Beawesome.com. You can go on, buy shirts. We hit the $1,000 mark for helping out the wonderful Fairbanks Youth Advocate Group. We're going to be giving at least $1,000, but I'm still giving $3 of every shirt sold between now and December 2nd before I go up there with Santa Claus and make a check out to them. But I really appreciate everybody's support in buying the shirts. And we've got 2 shirts left for people that make reviews and ratings and reviews on iTunes podcast. As many of you that follow me on LinkedIn, my effort is to give 365 books minimum away that I purchase, that I ship, that I give to you, the audience, my friends, my family, people that want to read and learn and grow. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to buy 5 David's books, and the next 5 ratings and reviews, I'm going to ship you out one of his books with one of my T-shirts because I think it's worth reading. So in the meantime, you follow me on Facebook, Instagram, same thing, LinkedIn. I'm doing more with my new social media manager, also known as my fiance, Amy's going to be taking over at the helm with my marketing efforts and social media management because I am doing a terrible job of it, partly because I'm traveling all over the place and meeting people in random locations to do these podcasts. So in the meantime, everybody, thank you so much for listening. You have made this journey an incredible one. Without you, I couldn't be where I'm at today. So in order to do awesome, you got to be awesome. Have a great week.